moved us, our gardens in Stony Point, everybody depended on a garden. And that was a thing that bothered my mom and dad, because when we got here, we had no garden. Didn't have time to plant. It was too late in the season. So we had to depend on Grandpa and Grandma for what we would have ordinarily got out of our garden in Stony Point. And when my dad and Sheldon went to check, and they says, hey, let's go check on our gardens at Stony Point. They must be pretty well up. The army had plowed them all down with tanks and stuff, rode over everybody's gardens down there, flattened everything out. So there was nothing down there. But that first year here was really hard for Mom and Dad, because I can understand now when you're preparing for winter and you don't have nothing to put away. And that wasn't only Dad and Mom, they had all the rest of the people that came. We had to depend on the people here at Kettle Point to share, which they did. They shared with the people from the tract of land at Stony Point. I think we only got 8 people left that moved from Stony Point to Kettle Point in 42. And I remember the day, and I remember when we got down here to Kettle Point, they put our Mom and Dad's house on the back of a truck. Ollie Tremaine was the man driving the truck, and they brought it to Kettle Point, and we still didn't understand, but it was all new. We were going to be close to Grandma, so when you're a kid, you don't really feel the anger and frustration that your parents felt, but you knew it wasn't something they liked. All through the years, I heard my dad, after a while when I got to understand what happened, my dad was always involved so much in the return of the land and to be able to go back to where we lived. And I never really understood that connection to the land that he had till I got older, and through our teachings I realized when the Creator placed us here, also gave us the responsibility for looking after that land that was ours, that we were living on. It's been all these years, and when they had the Ipperwash crisis, it was over land. And that's why I've so long been interested and committed to making sure that we got our land back as was promised before. And we moved in 1942, but it was prior to that. Our people voted and said no, but the government still moved us under the War Measures Act. I hope for the future of that community to be built. That community would have been like our community here at Kettle Point. We'd have probably had a structure there that supports people with services and everything. And to me, it's just, if you don't have the feeling for the land that I picked up from my mom and dad and the rest of our older people, it kind of leaves you in a situation of, is this a land grab? No, it isn't. It's a life. It's hanging on to the life that we were given and the responsibilities we are given for the land and the water and the environment. That's our responsibility, especially with Anishinaabe women. I feel that it's a relief that the land is going to be returned, knowing it's going to take a long time to clean it up, but our future generations will have a place to live.
the Government of Ontario announced that Ipperwash Provincial Park will be transferred to the Chippewa of Kettle and Stony Point First Nation over time. During the interim period, the park will be co-managed by the local community and by the First Nation.
Yeah, I strongly believe this is a good step forward in healing the whole process that's gone on in this part of the region, as well as sending a signal out to anybody who's coming into the area that we're working things out here and we want to normalize our relations and get this area back and bring tourism and other things that have been sort of on a downward turn.
I think today is a very important day, not only for the memory of my brother, but also for our community. I look at it's a step forward. We've looked at several steps now that have moved us forward in the last little bit since the inquiry report has come out. I talk about the Ministry of Aboriginal Affairs, who is standing next to me, Minister Bryant. He is working very hard to help us move things along, and I'm looking forward to working with him in the future, and but also to just thank my community, thank the people of Ontario for their support over the years, and now they can see that things are starting to move forward.
Thank you.
Signing an agreement that's going to bring us together, that's agreeing on the transfer of land, how we're going to transfer for this land to Ipperwash Park. What this is, it's a watershed day, it's a watershed moment on the relationship between the Government of Ontario and the First Nations of Ontario.
So often these inquiries and reports are written and the government takes them and says thank you very much, puts them on a shelf, and you never hear about them again. So the fact that this government has taken our report so seriously and has taken action in implementing so many of the recommendations is very gratifying. And the positive feeling in the air today makes me just feel terrific. It makes me feel that our work was worthwhile.
So there were actually 19 families that were actually moved in 1942, and those families, yeah, this was their homeland. And you know, some moved to Kettle Point, some couldn't get a home and just moved. Some moved to the States. So now all of these families can come back now once the lands are all returned. Definitely we'll rebuild the community, we'll rebuild homes and roads and everything, and offices and health centers, because it probably would have been a community like that if it wasn't taken when it was.
Of course, the final settlement agreement is the work of, you know, lots of people over the years. I always think back to one of the first documents I read, which was a letter from Beatty Greenberg back in about 1947, that said, basically said, okay, Canada, the war is over. We need our land returned, and that has kind of been the message since the land was taken in 1942.
I think the community is well aware. We had a number of meetings on described what the government was offering. After that, we in turn had a vote, and it was accepted yes. After that, what we have to do is wait until the government actually approves the final submission, the final FSA. They'll get it in front. It'll go to a cabinet committee. It'll be discussed amongst the various government ministers when they come to agreement and are satisfied that all our issues and concerns regarding government's responsibility are dealt with.
It's not perfect, but I think it's a good settlement, and I think it's a better settlement than we get if we went to court.
The settlement funds, which will be invested in a trust account, there are sufficient funds there to be managed effectively and to rebuild a community, which again has always been the desire of the people, to rebuild the community down at Stony Point, because our elders, confirmed, and I mean certainly the historical documents confirmed that we were two, what I like to call sister communities. We were one people, but we were two communities, and we have the opportunity now, when the land is clean, to go back to that.
World War II is finally over for the Chippewas of Kettle and Stony Point on that day, and now all that's left over is for us working on rehabilitation, restoration of our homelands, and reclaiming it, moving back and setting it back up as a community the way it was prior to the time it was taken.
So to have the FSA voted on last year was certainly a major accomplishment for the community and its people. But my comment to the chief at the time was, our ancestors are nodding and smiling, and I truly believe that, because that was always their dream, was to have their beloved lands back. The walk was the opportunity to support our elders. We still have a number of original elders from Stony Point who are still alive today. Not too many, but every generation has carried that message and carried that commitment and carried those ties to the land.
And it was an opportunity to have our elders go home to the place that they were removed from, and we felt it was very significant and very important that they got to be the ones to lead the way to go back home, because they were forcibly removed from that land. And the vast majority of our membership do not know or did not experience what it was like to be removed from that land and have your home taken from you. So we wanted those elders to lead the way, and they were very happy and very pleased that that was going on. And we left here in a very jovial, high-spirited march. And it was sad that we got there and encountered some people who didn't understand the reason we had to march. So communication is very important for us, that everybody knows what we're doing so we don't have misunderstandings. So we're trying to correct that as we go forward.
So it was really an opportunity for everyone to support them in knowing that the land, they will never get the opportunity to actually live on the land because it still has to be cleaned up. But at least it gave them some joy and comfort in knowing the land will be returned.
I just am happy to be with a lot of people that I knew and he knew and I don't know. Because after I got married, I moved away from the reserve. My husband worked off the reserve, in Port Yorn and Sarnia and all. So I didn't get to know a lot of the young people at that age.
I'm just happy everything turned out the way it did, not for me, but for all of the people that fought for the return of the land since 1942. All our ancestors who's now in the spirit world. That's what they wanted, the land back. That's the most important thing to us, is the land.
I met with the elders one time in 1991, a number of them that were in the original struggle in I saw tears come out of every one of their eyes as they reflected back on wanting to go home, you know what I mean? And so here we are, right? Good. It's a really good thing for this to happen. Now we can move on. There's going to be challenges, but at least we get to move forward.
Well, my thoughts and my hopes are people will take the time to think about this, because it's been a long time for our people to encounter and deal with all of the trauma, all of the difficulties we've had in reclaiming our land. But now that we've done that, we've got a large amount of money and a large possibilities for building a very decent, healthy community. And I hope we'll take the time to make amends with each other and find peace and bring our community back to it was the day the military came and upset our lives. We've got to go back to where we were and come forward together as a unified people.
The rebuilding of the community is going to help to put all those problems that happened since the land was taken in '42, and since then, you know, we've been subjected to a lot in those 74 years. But this is the opportunity to bring the people back together again as one for our future generations.